Ever get that feeling like you're just skimming the surface? You know, like there's this whole hidden layer to history, the stuff they don't teach you in school. Well, buckle up, because today we are going deep. We're diving headfirst into the world of secrets. Secrets that shaped not just a war, but the world we live in now.
Yeah, we're talking about the kind of stuff that was so hush-hush, so top secret, it barely even whispered in the history books. We're talking about President Franklin Delano Roosevelt, FDR, and the secret military projects he spearheaded during World War II.
That's right. Forget the fireside chats and the New Deal. Today, we're unearthing the clandestine operations, the groundbreaking tech, the stuff that was so far ahead of its time, it's hard to believe it even existed.
And get this, we've got a whole trove of historical accounts to guide us. First-hand accounts, declassified documents, the whole shebang. We're talking about peeling back the curtain and revealing the true impact of these projects. Not just on the war, but on the world as we know it.
So strap in, this is going to be a wild ride.
It certainly is.
All right, so let's dive right in. And we're better to start than with the project that basically redefined the word powerful, the Manhattan Project.
Ah, the Manhattan Project. The one that boosted the atomic age. But it's more than just a bomb, right? It's a story of fear. The fear that Nazi Germany was going to get there first.
Right. It all started with that letter Einstein and Szilard sent to FDR in 1939, warning him about the sheer destructive power of this new technology, the atom bomb.
And FDR, he didn't take it lightly. He knew the stakes were astronomical. And so he basically gave the green light to this massive, super secret undertaking. And I mean massive. We're talking over 130,000 people, a network of secret labs and facilities, all working towards a single goal, building the bomb before the Nazis.
And the price tag, $2 billion back then, which, adjusted for inflation, is like, what, $23 billion today? That's insane.
It is. It shows you just how seriously they took this threat. And to pull it off, they needed the best minds in the world, which is how you end up with this incredible team of scientists and military leaders.
Guys like Robert Oppenheimer, the theoretical physicist, Enrico Fermi, the Nobel Prize winner who created the first self-sustaining nuclear chain reaction. Talk about a brain trust.
Yeah. And then you've got General Leslie Groves, the military mind behind it all.
Yeah.
Keeping everything organized under wraps and on schedule. It was a monumental task.
And then, July 1945, the Trinity test. I can't even imagine what that must have been like, witnessing the birth of a weapon that powerful.
A turning point in history,
Yeah.
in warfare, in geopolitics. It was a moment that changed everything.
Okay, so from the atomic age, let's shift gears to a weapon that's less about brute force and more about cunning. Intelligence gathering. Specifically, Operation Magic, the mission to crack enemy codes.
Oh yeah, this is where things get really sneaky. See, FDR, he understood that information was power. And during wartime, knowing what your enemy was planning, that was the ultimate advantage. So he pours resources into this then new field, cryptography.
And their main target was the Japanese diplomatic code, the Purple Code. Sounds like something out of a spy movie.
Well, it basically was a spy movie in real life.
Yeah.
The Purple Code was Japan's most secure communications system. Cracking it gave the Allies a window into their plans, their movements, their everything.
And it led to some crucial victories, like the Battle of Midway.
Huge turning point in the Pacific War. Thanks in no small part to the intelligence gathered from the Purple Code, it allowed the U.S. Navy to ambush the Japanese fleet.
But it wasn't a perfect system. It didn't stop Pearl Harbor.
Right. Even with the best intelligence, sometimes things fall through the cracks. There were issues with coordination, delays in deciphering the messages. It's a sobering reminder that sometimes even the best laid plans.
Now let's move from the world of codes and ciphers to something a little more tangible. The Higgins boats, those small landing crafts that played an absolutely outsized role in the Allied victory.
Ah, yes, the Higgins boats. You can't talk about World War II amphibious landings without talking about these workhorses. They were absolutely essential, and FDR knew it. He saw the need for a reliable way to get troops onto those beaches under enemy fire.
And these weren't just any boats, were they? There was something special about their design.
It was revolutionary. The brainchild of Andrew Higgins, he created these shallow draft boats with a ramp that could be lowered right onto the beach. Genius, right? Troops could just storm right out instead of wading ashore from deeper water and getting picked off.
Made a huge difference in places like Normandy, D-Day, and in the island hopping campaigns in the Pacific.
Absolutely. They were everywhere. The unsung heroes of countless landings. Without those Higgins boats, the war might have played out very differently. FDR even called Higgins the man who won the war. High praise indeed.
So from those tough little boats, let's shift to something a little more shadowy. Espionage. The Office of Strategic Services. The OSS. The granddaddy of the CIA.
Oh yeah, the OSS.
Yeah.
This was FDR's brainchild, his vision for a unified intelligence organization that could do it all. Espionage, sabotage, propaganda, you name it, they did it.
And their scope was global. From Nazi-occupied Europe to the jungles of Southeast Asia, these guys were everywhere.
They were operating behind enemy lines, gathering intel, disrupting supply lines, supporting resistance movements, some of the most dangerous and vital work of the war.
And the legacy of the OSS is still felt today, right?
Absolutely. It laid the foundation for modern American intelligence. The tactics, the training, the organizational structure. It all started with the OSS.
Okay, so from spies and saboteurs, let's talk about a technology that might not seem as glamorous, but was just as crucial to winning the war. Radar.
Yeah, radar. It might not have the same intrigue as a secret agent, but it was absolutely essential, especially in the air and at sea. FDR knew that if they could detect enemy aircraft and ships before they were seen, it would be a game changer.
And he was right. It revolutionized warfare. He invested heavily in its development, even working closely with the British on this. Remember the Tizard mission?
Yeah, 1940. The British shared their radar secrets with the Americans, a huge boost to the Allied effort. It really highlighted the importance of collaboration.
And the impact was felt everywhere. From the Battle of Britain, where radar gave the RAF a fighting chance against the Luftwaffe, to the Battle of the Atlantic, where it helped Allied ships hunt down German U-boats.
Radar was a silent hero, saving countless lives and turning the tide in crucial battles.
Now let's talk about a project that was less about technology and more about fighting for equality right here at home, the Tuskegee Airmen. African-American pilots who proved their mettle despite facing discrimination every step of the way.
It's a truly inspiring story. At a time when racial segregation was still the norm, the Roosevelt administration took a chance on these brave men. It was a test. Could African Americans perform as well as their white counterparts in the demanding world of air combat?
And man, did they ever prove themselves. They flew escort missions for bombers, protecting them from enemy fighters, and they did it with incredible skill and courage.
The Red Tails, as they were known, earned a reputation for their excellence. Their combat record speaks for itself. They shot down enemy planes, they protected their bombers, and they did it all while facing prejudice and discrimination.
Their story is a testament to their determination, their skill, and their patriotism. And it played a vital role in paving the way for the civil rights movement. All right, from the skies, let's come back down to earth. But with a twist. We're talking about a military unit that fought with deception, illusion, trickery. The Ghost Army.
Oh yeah, this is where things get really interesting. The Ghost Army was like something out of a movie. Their weapons were inflatable tanks, fake radio transmissions, sound effects that mimicked entire armies.
They were masters of illusion. Artists, actors, sound engineers, their job was to fool the Germans, to make them think there were troops where there were none, to misdirect them, to sow confusion.
And they were remarkably successful. They created phantom divisions, staged fake attacks, and generally kept the Germans guessing. It was psychological warfare at its finest.
And their biggest moment came during D-Day. They played a vital role in the deception plan that helped make the Normandy landings a success.
By tricking the Germans into thinking the main attack was coming elsewhere, the Ghost Army saved countless lives and helped secure a crucial Allied victory.
Now, even before the U.S. officially joined the war, FDR found a way to support the Allies, the Lend-Lease program, a way to supply them with much-needed weapons and resources without actually getting directly involved in the fighting.
Lend-Lease was a brilliant move, a way to walk that tightrope between helping the Allies and staying officially neutral. It was a lifeline for countries like Britain and the Soviet Union. They were facing the full might of the Nazi war machine, and Lend-Lease gave them the supplies they desperately needed to hold on.
And we're not talking small potatoes here. It was a massive program, over $50 billion worth of stuff. Tanks, planes, ships, food, you name it. It was a game changer.
It was. And it kept the Allies in the fight. It allowed them to resist the Nazi onslaught until the U.S. was finally ready to join the war.
Now let's talk about one of the most ambitious and frankly outlandish projects of the war, Project Habakkuk, the plan to build aircraft carriers out of ice.
I know, right? Sounds crazy. But that was the idea. These massive, unsinkable carriers made from a mixture of ice and sawdust. They called it Pykrete.
The plan was to base these ice carriers in the Arctic. Where else would you find enough ice? They'd patrol the Atlantic, hunting U-boats and providing air cover for convoys.
It was a bold idea, but ultimately it proved too difficult to pull off. Building and maintaining these giant ice structures in the harsh Arctic environment was just too much of a challenge. But hey, you gotta give them points for creativity.
So we've covered a lot of ground here,
Yeah.
from the atomic bomb to ice carriers, from spies to code breakers. What are some of the key takeaways from all this?
I think the biggest one is just how far FDR was willing to go to win the war. He wasn't afraid to think outside the box, to take risks, to push the boundaries of science and technology.
And he understood the importance of secrecy. These projects were top secret for a reason. The stakes were just too high.
But there's also a darker side to this story. The development of weapons like the atomic bomb raises some serious ethical questions. And the reliance on espionage and covert operations, while necessary, blurred the lines between right and wrong.
It's a reminder that even in the fight for freedom, there are compromises to be made, difficult choices. And the consequences of those choices can be far-reaching.
Absolutely.
So as we wrap up this deep dive into the secret world of FDR's wartime projects, I want to leave you with this thought. In times of crisis, how far is too far? Where do we draw the line between necessity and morality? It's a question we still grapple with today.
It is.
And it's one that we as citizens have a responsibility to think about. Because the choices we make today will shape the world of tomorrow. Just like the choices FDR made shape the world we live in now.
That's a great point. It's something we all need to keep in mind.
Thanks for joining us on this journey. We'll see you next time for another deep dive into the hidden stories that shaped our world.
See you then.